Well, welcome everybody to beautiful Aurora, Colorado. We truly love this great city. We're going to be talking about some of the great things it has to offer. Unfortunately, the former president is only going to see the inside of the Gaylord Rockies, which is certainly worth seeing. It's a major event center. We're very proud of it. But we thought you might want to join us in the center of our Aurora community and see some of the exciting things going on. I love Stanley Marketplace and bring my family here often. And of course, Aurora has so much to offer, from Koreatown to some of the best food in Colorado, especially ethnic food, whether it's Ethiopian or Vietnamese or Korean. Great new youth center with an incredible moving river for kids to recreate in. An incredible town, fast-growing town, Colorado's third largest. We welcome the eyes of the nation on a true Colorado gem, the great city of Aurora, Colorado. And of course, Aurora is a safe, vibrant, wonderful place to live, a city of 400,000 people. I want to highlight that crime is significantly down over the last 2 years. 31% decrease in auto theft, 25% decrease in burglary. It's rare to see these kinds of statistics, and some say it's down because of the recent flux of immigrants. It's hard to tell. One of the reasons we think it's down is because the state's invested in additional law enforcement. We particularly targeted auto theft and funded additional prosecutors to go after it. But whatever we're doing, it's working. Aurora is safer than it's been, and of course, we want to continue to work to make it safer. And we know that statistics are statistics, and no matter how you look at them, Aurora's gotten safer over the last 2 years. But of course, that doesn't mean that there aren't victims of crime in Aurora, in cities across our nation. Our heart goes out to them. It's very difficult to be a victim of a crime, and we know that we need to do better, and we will. But this kind of a visit doesn't necessarily help us do better. And we even know that Aurora Mayor Mike Coffman, a Republican himself, has called out the former president's lies and distortions about Aurora and talked about how great a place Aurora is. And it really just shows as a matter of character that very often when he speaks, former President Trump doesn't seem to care who he hurts with his words and his rhetoric, or the consequences of what he says. We hope that we can turn a lemon into lemonade and really show how incredible Aurora is in the national limelight. Great place to live, to raise kids, to retire, to grow a business. Fastest growing city, great access to Denver International Airport. Many people don't know, but the airport is in the jurisdiction of Denver, but it's because of a little gerrymandering, I guess is the term we would use in politics. But really, right next to it is the town of Aurora. Denver is actually considerably further from the Denver International Airport, which is one of the top airports in North America. We also, of course, want to highlight the contrast. We hope that and invite Kamala Harris to come to town. We hope that she can dine with us in Koreatown, enjoy the Stanley Marketplace, perhaps take in Cherry Creek State Reservoir, a true gem of our state park system. And of course, that's why I know that Coloradans are firmly in the camp of Kamala Harris. We're firmly in the camp of Aurora in Colorado. We love the city of Aurora. We love the state of Colorado. And I think that kind of positive leadership that helps boost our communities is exactly what Kamala Harris will bring, not just for Colorado, but for our country. With that, I'll turn it over to Senator John Hickenlooper.
Thank you, Governor. I think there was some sort of a screw-up that the junior senator would speak before the senior senator, but that sometimes happens in politics.
I'm taking notes.
Donald Trump tanked the most comprehensive border security bill in at least the past decade. He tanked something that was the result of 4.5 months of hard negotiations, a genuine compromise, compromises on both sides, but the bill failed overnight because Donald Trump decided that he wanted to campaign on it. He didn't care about communities like Aurora or along the border in Arizona or Texas. He was willing to put up with whatever was going to happen because he wanted to have a campaign issue. Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma is one of the most conservative Republicans in the Senate. I think that's fair to say. He led the negotiations, and he reported back regularly to the Republican caucus as those negotiations went forward. And there was total buy-in until Donald Trump made the decision that his campaign needed the issue. And this was a compromise that there are parts of that bill I didn't like, parts of that bill Republicans didn't like. It would have provided thousands of law enforcement along the border, not just in terms of the Border Patrol, but the Customs and Border Security agents. The comprehensive addition to the border would also included new technology and staff trained in discovering illicit drugs, would make a dramatic reduction in fentanyl, illegal importation, smuggling. There would have been 4,300 asylum officers and additional judges so that you could have a timely process, get people through the process, and if they're not going to receive asylum, get them back to their original country, their country of origin. It would have brought resources to states like Colorado and to communities like Aurora that have, many cases, taken on the burden of immigrants coming, not having resources, not being able to work, and in many cases with their family, just trying to put food on the table. This happened back in February, and I'm not sure anyone's calculated what percentage of fentanyl deaths or what percentage of total illegal immigration have happened there because of the former president's lack of moral strength. That he prefers to take the issue and invent stories. He's taken one fact and spin that into a whole web of stories without any concern of who it's going to hurt. His ability to put these stories first and not worry about what the consequences are is reprehensible. The oath of office that a president takes says that they'll put the country and the Constitution first, and that's the reason. That you've got to be willing to put others first, your country first. Kamala Harris is ready to do that. She's done that her whole life. She is the classic example of someone who's dedicated her entire life of putting others first. She's the one who will come out and fight for the people of Colorado. She'll fight for communities like Aurora, make sure they have the resources that they need. She'll make sure that she can lift up communities like Aurora, not try to tear them down for a political stunt, a political purpose. She's the one who will make sure that we don't go back, that we go forward. We're going to need to make sure that we get her elected, or we'll be living through these kinds of situations again and again and again. The chaos that we saw before will be upon us again. Now I'll introduce our senior senator, Michael Bennet.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Thank you all for being here today. Donald Trump has invited himself to Aurora to do what Donald Trump does best, which is to demonize immigrants, to lie, and to serve his own political purposes. And we can't let him divide us anymore. We can't go back to the chaos that he represented. In my view, the idea that he is here making up lies about Aurora, lies about Colorado is reason enough that he should not be a re-elected president, especially when you consider the fact that so many Americans are recovering today still from the latest hurricane. But his focus is on himself, not on the American people or their challenges. Aurora, as the governor said, is a vibrant community in Colorado. You know, it's the reason why immigrants come to our country, and it shows how immigrants enrich our country. The restaurants alone, the small businesses alone, the schools in that community pulsate with children that are from all over the world who are immigrants and who are non-immigrants, who are trying to build a better life for themselves, for their families, and for our community. And Donald Trump's presence here today does nothing to help any of them. He's demonizing them, again, so that he can try to divide the American people. He didn't fix our immigration system. He's lied about it since the very beginning. He told the American people over and over and over again that Mexico was going to pay for his wall. We knew that was never the case. He should have called it the wall that Mexico would never pay for. They haven't paid for it. He didn't fix the immigration issues when he was president of the United States. In fact, they got worse when he was president of the United States. And I'm not surprised about this, because he has such a pathological hatred for immigrants and for immigration in this country that he can't even see the economic benefits of immigration in the United States or in our history, much less the cultural benefits that have accrued as a result of this country being dedicated to a nation of immigrants. And we need a president who can fix our broken immigration system. At long last, that's what we need. I was part of the Gang of Eight in 2013 that wrote the last comprehensive immigration bill that passed the United States Senate with 68 votes. It was killed in the House of Representatives by Donald Trump's allies, the so-called Freedom Caucus, that couldn't bear to have us actually fix the problem. And what we know about that bill was that it was consistent with our best traditions as a nation of immigrants. It was consistent with the rule of law. That bill had $40 billion of border security in it that would have been paid for by fees that immigrants paid, but it wasn't security to build the obsolete wall that Trump imagined. It was 21st century security that we had invented in the fight in Iraq and Afghanistan that would have allowed us to see every single inch of the border. Donald Trump's allies stood in the way of that bill, just as Donald Trump stood in the way of the most recent attempt in the Senate, because he'd rather play politics than actually solve the problem. I've known Kamala Harris for a long time. She's a friend of mine from our work together on the Intelligence Committee in the Senate. I know how seriously she takes these issues. And what we need to do as the American people is elect a president and a Congress to be able to pass legislation that is consistent with our commitment to the rule of law, consistent to who we are as immigrants, and takes this issue away from Donald Trump, who he thinks is helping only himself, but certainly nobody who owns a small business in Aurora, nobody who's going to school in Aurora, and for whom the interests of the American people are, if anything, an afterthought. We have to change and turn the page on this sorry chapter in American history, elect Kamala Harris, and elect a Congress that can do the work with her to solve these problems to the American people. And with that, I'm proud. Congressman Crow.
Good morning. I'm Congressman Jason Crow from the beautiful 6th Congressional District of Colorado, also an Aurora resident, and represent this beautiful, strong, vibrant city of Aurora. Polis, Senators Bennett and Hickenlooper, and my colleague Dinah DeGette for joining me and standing in solidarity to send a very strong message about what this community really is, what we really mean, and what we I served with men and women from every corner of this country, every race, every ethnicity, every background, every nationality. We were people that came from everywhere, but when we came together, we were stronger than our differences might suggest. We found commonality. We were Americans. We fought together, we served together, and we drew strength from that diversity. So when folks like to say who do and do not belong here, I take it very personally. In fact, in Iraq, One of the men in my unit who gave his life for this country was an immigrant. So I will always stand up and correct the record when somebody says that people don't belong. Now, as a member of Congress representing one of the most diverse districts in the nation, a community where nearly 20% of my neighbors and my friends and my constituents were born outside of the country, where we have over 130 languages spoken, I will stand up once more and defend my people. Because we know in Aurora that our vibrancy, our strength, our culture, so much of who we are, our businesses, our schools, our neighbors, are drawn from that beautiful heritage of immigration. That we set the standard in this nation for welcoming people who are coming here to start a new life, to become a part of the American story. That is who we are. So when Donald Trump invited himself to tell lies, to twist and distort that story for his own terrible purposes, we will not tolerate it. Donald Trump is coming here to tell lies for very specific reasons. He's doing it because he does not want us to talk about the reality. He does not want us to talk about the fact that he will support and impose a national abortion ban, stripping rights from all American women. He does not want us to talk about the fact that he will gut important protections for gun violence prevention. He does not want us to talk about that he will gut any efforts and all efforts to protect clean air and clean water and to address the climate crisis. He does not want us to talk about the fact that he will slash taxes for the wealthiest Americans and the biggest corporations, and he will do so on the backs of working people in middle-class America. And he certainly doesn't want us to be united, because he knows that he cannot win if folks are united. So make no mistake, these lies and these distortions about immigrants and refugees in our community are designed to tear us apart and to pit us against each other so that we cannot unite and push back against his lies and distortions. But we will not do it, because we know who we are. We are Aurora strong, and we couldn't be more proud to be here today to tell the true story of who Colorado is, who Aurora is, and who we are as a people, and that Kamala Harris is the real leader who will move our country forward, who will unite us, who will defend the American working class, who will address the issues of Aurorans, of Coloradans, of Americans, and who will address the divisions in our country that are tearing so many of us apart. That is a vision that scares the hell out of Donald Trump, and it is the story that we are here to tell today. So with that, I couldn't be more proud to introduce my wonderful friend, amazing leader and colleague, Diana DeGette.
Thank you so much, Representative Crow. If you go right across the street, literally, you'll be in my congressional district. So we share many communities, and we share every single value. Donald Trump is coming to Aurora today to continue his tour of lies and misinformation. As you heard from Representative Crow, Aurora is a vibrant, diverse city, and unfortunately, like many other cities, they have experienced gang violence, but in Aurora, like Colorado and the rest of our country, violent crime actually has gone down in the last year. Donald Trump is here to stir fear and disinformation for one reason, and Jason said it. He's trying to distract all of us from his failed policies and his extreme Project 2025 agenda that would devastate families right here in Colorado. Look, I've been in Congress a long time. I've served under 5 presidents during my terms, And I have to say, honestly, not a single one of those presidents, Democrat or Republican, has lied to such a degree as Donald Trump to serve their base political purposes. Not even close. For my entire time in Congress, we have attempted to enact immigration legislation, often in a bipartisan basis, as Senator Bennett so eloquently talked about. Oh, there he is. As he talked about. Now, look, I will probably disagree with my Republican colleagues about some of the things in the comprehensive plans that we have debated. But you know what? That's what legislation is about. Working with people on your side of the aisle, working with people on the other side of the aisle to solve a problem. So frankly, that's why it was so shocking when, against all odds, last February, the Senate actually was able to hammer out such a compromise. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Then, according to the bill's sponsor, Donald Trump basically told the Republicans to kill the bill so that he could campaign on that issue. And that's what Donald Trump is doing in Aurora today. And what he's doing in Aurora today, through his lies, is exactly what my colleagues have said. He is trying to prey on the most base fears of Americans and to put residents of a wonderful, diverse, vibrant community at risk. We cannot take this as Americans. And on November 5th, we will not take this as Americans. Folks, we have a choice right now. We have a choice between Kamala Harris's new way forward for the American people and Donald Trump's toxic Project 2025 agenda. I know what Coloradoans are going to do in 25 days. Coloradoans are going to reject hatred, they're going to reject lies, and they're going to reject anger, and they're going to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, President and Vice President of the United States. I'm now happy to turn it over to the moderator for questions.
All right, we have time for 4 questions from the press. I'm going to walk the mic around.
Good morning, everybody. Oops, sorry about that. We are, as you said, 25 days away from the general election, and we went out and spoke with some voters who otherwise say that this narrative of immigration, although played out mostly by Republicans, is also a heavy ticket for Democrats, and that especially Latino voters here that we've spoken with say that that makes them feel not sure of what they're going to do, and they're decided to either not participate in the election, or just they haven't decided yet. So what would be your message to undecided voters and Latino people who are still trying to make up their minds?
Well, look, I think if you want to solve the immigration issue, vote for Kamala Harris. If you want somebody who's going to keep the immigration issue open, stoke the fires, and prevent it from being solved, that's what Donald Trump has done, and it's what he'd do again. So I think Kamala Harris brings practical solutions, whether it's for border security, whether it's for Dreamers. Donald Trump wants to do everything he can to stop anything that would solve illegal immigration and keep it stoked just for political purposes.
Okay. Lucas, I have you next. Please give us your name and your outlet.
Lucas Brady Woods, KUNC. This is probably for Congressman Crow, Congresswoman DeGette. Can you talk a little bit more about how this is putting people at risk, putting the community at risk, in what specific ways?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I spend a lot of time in my community meeting with groups, meeting with immigrant and refugee organizations, meeting with immigrants themselves. And in fact, just yesterday, I held a roundtable with recent immigrants, many of whom were impacted by the housing issues that are really at the core of what Donald Trump has lied about and twisted and contorted into a gang issue that is not the reality. And what all of them have told me is that they're afraid. that anti-immigrant and anti-refugee rhetoric has increased, that bias and racism has increased, that several of them have been trying to get new homes and rent new apartments, and they haven't been able to because people won't rent to them anymore. These words, these lies have real consequences. This is not victimless. What Donald Trump is doing is victimizing some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And it's wrong, it's dangerous, and that is exactly why we are here, to stop it, to correct the record and say enough is enough. We will not allow you to drop into this community for a couple of hours at a luxury resort, not even close to where these folks live and are trying to build their lives, and tell lies that make their ability to move forward much more difficult.
Name and outlet.
Wanye Reese, and I work with Denver 7. What do you all say to the constituents across Colorado who may feel that there is an issue with immigration in our country and we need some type of solution?
Well, I think I say that's why we need to elect Kamala Harris to make sure that we can have she'll sign a bipartisan border security bill rather than destroy it like Donald Trump did. She'll make sure that we continue to move forward with public safety. She's a prosecutor. She's put criminals behind bars rather than a convicted felon himself, which the other candidate is. So I think it's a real opportunity for everybody who supports law and order, supports keeping America safe, and supports stopping illegal immigration to step up and vote for Kamala Harris.
Because I've been in Congress a long time, people need to stop politicizing the issue of immigration. And both parties need to work together to come up with a comprehensive solution that will help the 11 million people here who need to have a regular status, but then enhance the border, that will help people who are coming here applying for asylum, and that will help us get visas. We need to do all of that. If anybody thinks Donald Trump is your guy, I have another thing coming. He tears it down every day, and he killed the one effort that we actually could have passed to get to that.
One other thing that's important to mention is one of the biggest challenges to our economy right now is we have a workforce shortage. We don't have enough people. Right, and that's driving the cost of many goods up. It's making it hard for businesses to grow. I spend a lot of time with small businesses throughout this community, and I always ask them, what is their biggest challenge? And without fail, it's always, we don't have enough workers. We can't find enough people. So businesses need people. I talk all the time with these refugees and immigrants, and they want to work. They desperately want to work, and these businesses need employees. But it's Donald Trump and his followers who are preventing us from providing a status and giving these folks work permits, which would be great for our economy, great for our communities, great for these immigrants, but they would rather run on a problem than solve a problem. And we are here, and Kamala Harris is here to solve the problem.
And I want to say also that we have a broken immigration system. That's obvious to everybody. And the economic importance of immigration to the American people is also obvious for the reasons that Jason just said. But that's not new. If you look at the economic growth in the United States of America over the last 100 years, a third of that growth has come from immigration. So if you're concerned about whether our economy is going to continue to grow, you need to be concerned about whether or not we have a reasonable immigration system for people to come to this country lawfully. And we don't have that right now because of Donald Trump's failed leadership and because we have not been able to get through a bill through the Republican-led House of Representatives. We had a 68-person vote of Republicans and Democrats that dealt with the 11 million people that Diana talked about, that had the best DREAM Act that had ever been written, that was filled with the visas that Jason is hearing from his constituents every day, and that I'm hearing every day from our ski resorts to our farmers and to our ranchers who cannot hire the people that they need. And they don't want a lawless immigration system. They want a lawful immigration system that they can depend on so they don't lose their farms and they don't lose their ranches because they don't have the employees that they need to do the work. And we need a real approach to secure our border in ways that reduces the chaos that Trump has been such a huge part of. He is a genius at politicizing this issue. He is a genius at dividing the American people. That is the playbook of folks that have nothing constructive to say. And again, the fact that he's invited himself to Aurora at a moment when he could be making sure that people are recovering from the hurricane, that is just par for the course with him. So we have to find a way over the next 30 days to make sure the American people understand how massive the divide is on this issue. And if they want it addressed, they need to elect Kamala Harris and a Congress, Democrats and Republicans, that are willing to come together to address it. And the thing that he is continuing to sow in our country is division and chaos. And as I said earlier, we have to turn the page on that failed leadership that he represents.
Okay.
And this gets to be our one chance where we can make sure that everybody speaks to every issue. I would add, in answer to that person who has those doubts, there are a lot of people going through a struggle. You know, it has been a difficult time in many ways for many people, and I hear that. And it's easy to blame that person you don't know, that immigrant you don't know, because you don't have the job you want or haven't been able to get a promotion. But the bottom line is Donald Trump will come in and he will lower taxes for the wealthy. He will ultimately reduce wages for working people. He will increase the pressure and the struggle on those people that need the help the most. Kamala Harris has been working with President Joe Biden to try to build from the bottom up, the middle out, and they're making real progress. We see every month wages growing at a much faster rate than inflation is. That's the goal. That's the goal, is how do you rebuild the middle class? Kamala Harris is going to do that. Donald Trump would never dream of doing it.
Okay, last question.
Hi, Sarah Backwitz, CBS 4. This is coming ahead of Trump's speech today, where he's expected to talk about the gang activity in Aurora. I know that a big part of this press conference is to set that record straight. Could you give the latest description of the situation, you know, setting that straight of what it looks like right now in Aurora?
Yeah, I would be happy to. You know, what's wild to me is that the people who have created these lies and distortions, you know, in the last few months, prior to this, haven't given a damn about the cost of housing in this community, haven't cared about youth violence in this community, haven't cared about the families that are struggling to get out of poverty in this community, and certainly haven't cared about the immigrants and refugees. They're only talking about this now because they see an opportunity to try to lie and distort the situation. So I want to make that very clear at the outset. This community and parts of this community have struggled with youth violence, right, for decades. And we work hard with local law enforcement, with federal law enforcement, with after-school programs, with the superintendents, with teachers and others to address that issue. And that is the crux of this issue. But I've spoken with federal law enforcement numerous times, and they are very clear that there is no uptick in transnational gang activity in Colorado and in this area. What is occurring is minimal and isolated. And to be clear, it's never acceptable, right? We never say any level is acceptable, but it's not a surge, it's not a change. There is no takeover of any part of this city, of any apartment complex. It has not happened. It is a lie. And federal law enforcement and local law enforcement are doing what they always do and work hard and work in collaboration with our city leaders and our local leaders to address the issue and help people create a better lives for themselves.
Thank you all.